All right, so I read your manuscript and... Oh, yeah? And what'd you think? I think you're really talented. You should consider self-publishing this. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I really appreciate it. I was actually going to look into that. Yeah, it's great. A lot of people are doing it, and you know what? It's completely free to do it online. What about the cover, though? Oh, that's not that tough. You can make one yourself. It won't cost you a penny. Yeah, the thing is that like I actually want it to look good, and I don't have any design skills, and I want to actually sell copies. Yeah. Well, in that case, then, yeah, you're going to have to hire someone. You're going to have to outsource that for sure. So just the cover then? Yep, just the cover. Well, the cover and of course, this is going to need to be edited as well. Right, yeah, the cover and the editing. Yeah, just the cover, oh wait, you'll need an ISBN as well. No, wait, you're Canadian, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So just like your healthcare, the ISBN for you is free. All right, so cover design and editing. That's it, right? Well, there's some money towards formatting too. And you know what, you're gonna need some money for proof copies and a little bit for marketing as well. So yeah, there's some extra. And this seems like a lot of money. You said it was free. Yeah, but uploading it to Amazon is completely free. But it's not really, is it? I suppose you have a point. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that skit. It was a lot of fun to record, but yeah, it took a long time to edit. So in this video, I'm going to try and do it all in minimal editing. I have my notes here in terms of going over the approximate cost to self-publish your book in 2021. And I'm going to be breaking down, as we go through these, I'm going to be breaking down like which ones are more costly for nonfiction versus fiction, and I'm not going to give you exact numbers for each item that you have to pay for to self-publish a book. I'm going to give more of a range, and some ranges are going to be larger than others. And I'm going to stop and kind of talk about each item just a little bit in terms of like what you expect to, or like what type of services you can expect to pay at what type of ranges. So yeah, before we get into it, I should introduce myself. I'm Denis with Weekend Publisher, and on this channel, I talk all about how to profitably publish and promote your book on Amazon. So if that sounds like something that's interesting to you, make sure you scroll down, hit subscribe, and that like button as well. But enough of the intro, let's get started. And that skit, before I move forward, that was basically me when I was first self-publishing my book in 2017. I'd read online in forums, you know what, it's completely free to self-publish. And yeah, while it is, and it's still a myth that's out there, and while it is free to self-publish online, like Amazon doesn't cost you anything, or they don't charge you anything, to actually prepare and package your book in a way that's going to sell. You could do it for completely free. You can create your own cover, you can do your own editing, you could do it for completely free, but to actually sell it, it's gonna be a stretch. So if you want to actually sell copies, you have to invest money into it. And that's one of the biggest things that I notice is that people don't realize, or self-publishers don't realize, it's just, I'm just sharing my art. I'm just sharing my story with others. Yeah, and while that's true, when you offer something online to sell, you're essentially creating a business. And businesses need money invested into them. Not, tens of thousands of dollars, but it needs some money invested into it. So with that out of the way, let's talk about some of the self-publishing costs that you can expect to pay in 2021. The first one, and this one doesn't apply to everyone, it can apply more often to people who are looking at it more as a business or a nonfiction book. And the first one is a ghostwriter. And this comes in a huge range and costs you anywhere from 3 cents a word to all the way up to 10 cents a word, with the average probably being, within 4 to 6 cents a word. Now, you can find good ghostwriters on platforms like Upwork, Fiverr to a degree, although I've never really had much luck with Fiverr in terms of ghostwriting, or just within a personal connection. and connecting with other people in groups. So that's expense number one. That doesn't really apply to everyone, so I'm not going to sit on this one for too long. Expense number two, and this is a big one. This is probably going to be your biggest expense, is the editing. Now, I'm not going to get into too much in terms of the different types of editing, in terms of like developmental, copy, and proofreading. But like developmental is the one that's more in depth, then copy editing, then proofreading, and then the prices reflect that. So based on approximately a 60,000 word book, and you can kind of scale that depending on the length of your book, you could pay upwards of, and I wrote these down, about $1,400 for a developmental edit, about $1,000 for copy edit, and about $700 for proofreading. Now that equals to about $3,100, $3,100, and these are all in US dollars that I'm pointing out. So that is very, very expensive. Now again, there's a range that you could be plus or minus that, $1,000 for a total. One way to save money on editing, which a lot of people are, is now I'm going to say one way not to save money on editing. Nothing replaces a human eye on a manuscript. So Grammarly, Pro Writing Aid, those type of tools, they're not going to replace a human editor. They're great tools, but there's a fair amount of limitations. Out of the two, I prefer Pro Writing Aid, but yeah, there's a lot of limitations. So it's not going to replace your human editors. So unfortunately, you're not able to save money that way. One way you can save money is just getting better at writing, improving your craft, joining writing clubs, and getting better and better. Normally with a first-time author, we usually recommend like a developmental edit, just to look at the whole story to make sure it all makes sense. But once you get better and better, you might just not need a developmental edit. You might just need a copy edit and some proofreaders. Once you start building up an audience with your marketing efforts, you might not even need a proofreader. You might be able to use your beta readers, or even not so much ARC readers, but your beta readers. Once you build up that team, that launch team, to actually help you with the proofreading, which is fantastic. So you get to save some money there. Yeah, that's one of the biggest expenses. And then the third way, there's a second way, a third way. Anyways, another way to save money is connect with an editor that you can exchange services with. Like, so for example, in the past, I have an aptitude and experience and knowledge in terms of marketing books. So I've exchanged services with editors that were up for it to help market their books in exchange for them editing or proofreading my books. You might have a skill that might be attractive, that might be in, web design, that you can exchange services for to get a discount on the editing. So that's one way to save some funds on editing as well. The next one is cover design. And this has a huge range. I do not, although I did recently do a video, I'll link it down below, on creating your own book cover using Canva. And Canva really is one of the best softwares online softwares to create your own book cover. But I don't, and I say a disclaimer right at the beginning of the video, I don't recommend doing your own cover. So there is some inexpensive ways to do your own cover, but the range is somewhere between like $20 and $1,000. But usually in the range of, like, if you're hiring an independent cover designer, you're usually in the range of $300 to $500. On the higher end, you're going to get some really premium cover designers, maybe some custom illustration at the very top. But yeah, the $20, you're looking at something like getcovers.com, which is kind of, I think, new into this space. That's pretty good. And then of course Fiverr. I'll leave a link down below to save 20% off your first order off of Fiverr. But there's a lot of great talented artists on Fiverr. You can get a cover done for $50, $70. Sort of in between the Fiverr and Get Covers and the independent designers is pre-mades. Pre-mades I think have a place. Usually you can get $100 to $250 for a pre-made. Those are pretty good if you can find one that you really like. They work as well. And then of course the custom independent designers, there's a ton out there. Make sure you look at their portfolios, engage with them, go back and forth. These are really beneficial if you have something very specific in mind, a very specific vision. So they're not necessarily just taking one stock photo or just two stock photos and just kind of merging them together. They're taking the photos and they're manipulating the colors, they're manipulating the contrast, they're combining them, they're doing a whole bunch of stuff that really makes that cover custom to what you like. So you're paying a premium for that. So the cover design, somewhere between $20 and $1,000. All right, next is the formatting. Now this also has a huge range, somewhere between free and $800. So in my experience, formatting is more important with nonfiction books. If it's a straight up fiction book and you're not picky about like the typeset and these fancy drop caps and all that sort of stuff, and even if you are, this one you could either do for free, which is a little bit tricky. You could use like completely free software like Calibre, which I've used in the past. Warning though, it's not easy to use. You could use services like online services like Drafted Digital to do your formatting as well. You can also buy software which is easier for a Mac called Vellum. I always forget how to pronounce that, but Vellum. But that's going to set you back $200, which is quite pricey, but it's really the best software to do it on your own. It's quite pricey and it only works for Macs. So unless you want to pay like extra money for like a monthly subscription for like a Mac in the box, which I mean, there's just another expense. I think it's like $20 a month, and so that's just another expense that you have. Or you could hire it out. And again, you can go to Fiverr for this. There's some great resources on Fiverr, some low cost resources. Again, 20% off coupon off your first order down in the description. Or you can get a professional to do it. I've done it all. I've done it myself. I've hired someone off of Fiverr. I've had a professional do it, especially for Catch a Unicorn, Demystifying Book Marketing for Fiction Authors, which I'll link down to below, which is one of my recent books. I really wanted to get a formatter of that because I really wanted it, like it was just like a thing of love. Like I just really wanted the book to look great, especially with print. And it had charts and it had images and it had tables and it had all this stuff that made the formatting complicated. And I wanted to have a theme and I just wanted it to look great. So I hired a professional formatter. This cost me, I think, around $400 US dollars. So it's not cheap. It's not cheap, and that's, you know, in addition to the editing, the cover design, all this other sort of stuff. So it's not cheap, but it is more important with nonfiction, and I think really more important if you're going print and if it's really a labor of love and you want it to look pretty. So yeah, again, the range for that is about $20 to $800 or maybe $1,000, depending on the scale of the project. Next up is the ISBN. So as I alluded to in the Skit, depending on where you live, you might get a free ISBN. I'm in Canada, I get a free ISBN, which is fantastic. If you're in the US, which I know a lot of people watching this are, it's going to cost you $125 for one ISBN, but I know you can buy packages of 10 for like 200 and something. Yeah, you'll have to look it up. Just type in ISBN US Bowker, BOWKER. That's one of the best resources to pick up an ISBN. So that's another thing to add on. Second lastly, we're talking about proof copies or copies to give away, and this leads sort of into the marketing. So proof copies, this really depends on like the length of your book, where you're sending the copies, and so on. But you want to order some proof copies just to make sure it's all packaged well. The cover looks good, the formatting looks good. So that's going to cost you maybe $50 to $100. Then you might want to send a couple of paperback copies to some reviewers, some influencers. You want to try and send them the electronic version first because it's far cheaper and way more easier logistically to do that. But you might want to have, like for example, when I came up with my first book, I ordered like I think 100 copies or 50 copies. just because again I'm in Canada and ordering, and I had set up through CreateSpace, and it was more difficult or much more expensive to buy paperback copies in Canada. So I didn't want to be like that guy with 1,000 copies in my garage or in my trunk. That's why print on demand is out, which is fantastic, where you don't have to have that anymore. And I don't want to be that guy, but people on my baseball team and coworkers, and they just want to be like, oh well, just give me a copy, or just give me a copy, sign it, and then I'll throw you a couple bucks. So that's why I bought those copies. So there's a little bit of funds that go into that as well. And then lastly, you're talking about the marketing. That's really where I specialize and what I'm really passionate about talking about. And if you're struggling with marketing, or if you want to know more about marketing, make sure you subscribe to this channel. But marketing, I did a full video on how much marketing should cost you monthly in my Facebook group, which I'll link to down below. But really, you want to focus on doing some ads, doing some free book promotions. You want to set aside maybe $200 for the first couple of months to kind of get those ads dialed in. You want to get some exposure for your book. You want to get those reviews in. You want to get it some momentum. Yeah, some cost for that. Another cost for marketing, which I really recommend, is Publisher Rocket. I love Publisher Rocket. I've talked about it a lot, and I'll continue to talk about it on this channel. It's a one-time fee of $100 or $99 US, but it's a one-time fee, and I've had it since 2017. So I've, if you equal it out per month, and I use it every single month, like it's pennies or just dollars a month. So if you really plan on making self-publishing like a long-term thing, it's really great to analyze your competition, to find keywords that you can use in your title, your description, and of course the back end of your KDP dashboard. And it's really great for finding categories and spying on other books and what categories they're in as well. I'll leave a link to that down below. It is an affiliate link, so I do get a couple of dollars back if you do purchase Publisher Rocket through that link. You can use my affiliate link or not. It's up to you. Either way, I do recommend it. So in total, what does this all cost? This can all cost upwards, minus the Ghostwriter. This can all cost upwards of $5,000 US. Now, some of you might be like, wow, okay, I was under the impression that this was free, and now you're telling me it could be upwards of $5,000? A lot of people are getting sticker shock, especially with editing. They kind of get that sticker shock. But you know what? Just like I said at the top of the video, this is an investment into your business. So make sure you do the research, make sure you know how to market the book, make sure you vet the people that you pick well. So choose a couple of cover designers, choose a couple of formatters, editors, reach out to them, ask for sample edits, ask to see, it might be a long shot, but see if you have a service, see if you can do some exchange. Another big tip, and I should have mentioned this in the editing, is when you join that writer group, you might be able to find other writers to exchange work with. So that could save you some money on editing as well. It can cost you upwards of $5,000, but you could do it for as low as $500. It really depends on what sort of connections you have, what sort of abilities you have, and so on. So those of you who are just discovering self-publishing now, was this a sticker shock? Was this like, oh my God, I didn't realize it was going to cost this much money? Comment down below if you've already self-published. Do you agree with my numbers? Did you pay way less or way more? Comment down below. Let me know. Again, I'm Denny with Weekend Publisher. If you're new here, subscribe, like this video if you found it useful. I'll see you in the next one.